My siblings, would you please reach out and give us a Most High, we pray that I may speak with your voice so that we may hear with your
Amen.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Jesus proclaimed the gospel of the kingdom and cured every disease among the people. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. May Christ be with you.
And also with you.
A reading from the Good News according to the book of Matthew.
Glory to you, O Christ.
Jesus left Gennesaret and departed for the district of Tyre and Sidon. It happened that a Canaanite woman living in that area came and cried to Jesus, "Heir to the house of David, have pity on me. My daughter is horribly demon possessed." Jesus did not respond to her. The disciples came and repeatedly said to him, "Please get rid of her. She keeps calling after us." But Jesus turned to the woman and said, "But my mission is only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." She then prostrated herself before him with a plea, "Help me, Rabbi." He answered, "But it is not right to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." "True, Rabbi," she said, "but even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table." Jesus then said in reply, "Woman, you have great faith. Your wish will come to pass." At this very moment, her daughter was healed. This is the gospel of our Christ.
Praise to you, O Christ.
The dance of working humans up to things that they should have known all along. So Isaiah 56 says, "Do what is right, work for justice. The foreigners who join themselves to me, ministering to me, loving in the name of God, becoming my servants, cling to my covenant. These I will bring to my holy mountain. I will make them joyful in my house of prayer." It's not something new that all are welcome. It's just hard for the Israelites to wrap their head around. We all like to be the special ones, right? And say that everybody else is out. Yeah, it's that phenomenon. In Psalm 67, let the nations shout and sing for joy, not just one. Since you dispense true justice to the world, you dispense righteous justice to the peoples. On earth, you govern the nations. Let the nations praise you, O God. And then we have Romans. And the author of Romans wrestles with this. He says, if their rejection had meant reconciliation for the world, what will their acceptance mean? Nothing less than life from the dead. So the author was reasoning that Jesus was able to justify to his Hebrew followers reaching out to the non-Hebrew people because there weren't enough wedding guests from among their own people. If you remember that parable. That because there wasn't enough acceptance from inside, it was therefore legitimized to go outside. But his reasoning also is that this new covenant is so vastly better. And, I got to admit, I'm not exactly a fan of the seas of blood around the temple precincts of the old covenant. So I'm good passing on that one myself. But it may be a covenant that's better for us. It does not remove the people who are following the covenant that they had agreed to. And I think the author of Romans wrestles with that. He's so sure that he's got such a better deal that he needs to grab everybody along. And I think that's what we see here. He wants to save them from what they've always known, which is, to be fair, a pretty punitive system. But it's hard to leave something you've known, right? Even if it's a punitive system. It's hard to leave something you're known for, even when you know it's hollow inside you. It's no longer giving you life. It's hard to do something new, isn't it? Even when you desperately yearn to. And Romans author does know that they're not out. And this is a point that too much of the church has missed too long. It's done some pretty horrific things in intolerance and in some need to other its own parents. He says that God's gift and God's call are irrevocable, that God wished to show mercy, and that they too receive mercy. And I would have phrased it a little bit differently. I would have said that God's seeing these people imprisoned in disobedience and trying to show them that this is a prison they're in. Because I think God made it utterly clear through some of these writings and the sum of our livings that going against who we are and who we need to be and who we're called to be feels like a prison. And so do all that laws that can't be kept completely for every person that doesn't fit there. And we always have to remember that we write from our biases. These very human authors wrote from what they felt was true because they knew that this worked for them. It worked in their heads and hearts. And we have to remember that all spiritual writing, even more than pretty much everything else, is really contextual to the person feeling the truth in them. We have to wrestle and wade our way through these. We have to understand where they came from and figure out what the family stories can teach us. Yes, these writings are given by inspiration through so many hands you wouldn't even believe. And all of us are trying our best in our own muddling human way to find our truth in them. And then when we start looking at the gospel, I want you to notice the acclamation that they put with it. Jesus proclaimed the gospel of the kingdom and cured every disease among the people. Because what you have here is kind of a call and response. Jesus is literally setting up the legal context for why he can help. This is smoothly scripted. This is smoothly performed. A Canaanite woman cried out to Jesus. A Canaanite. Now, when the people of Israel were sent to go conquer this land, they were literally told to commit genocide. They weren't supposed to leave anybody alive. So, and again, written by humans, but that's what it says. So the Canaanite woman here is already kind of a demonstration that some amount of love has sidestepped the rules more than a little. But she's appealing to the heir of the house of David. Who's that official status? The house of David has absolutely nothing it can give a Canaanite woman. That's not who to appeal to. And then the disciples jump to the wrong conclusion because Jesus isn't responding to the wrong ask. Oh, can we get rid of her because she's really annoying? She keeps asking. They really don't like people bugging Christ, and yet Christ always seems to let people in. So when she comes again to Rabbi, he says, well, the next thing he answers a little bit later that my mission is only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then she calls him Rabbi, teacher. So then he gives her the party line. Here he gives her the quote. It's not right to give the children's food to the dogs. And she has an instant comeback. But you know that the dogs get all the crumbs. And you know in a loving house, one or two things get slipped by, put aside, put out. Come on now. But do you see this dance as it's going open and open and open? And then he doesn't do anything. He says she did. Your faith is right there. You have great faith. Your wish has come to pass. He credited her faith, which she'd had all along. They just had to dance the dance for the benefit of the crowd and this teaching. I think it's why the story got in. Because remember, this is all selected stories from 3 years of ministry. Don't call to the royal ruler's heir. Call to the miracle worker with dust on his feet. The exchange opens space in hearers' hearts. Christ didn't rail against the Pharisees when they weren't there trying to entrap him. He goes after them when they're there to hear and to be the example for the crowd here. So he takes the situation to make the teaching, talking to the person he's talking to and everybody else. And so what we've got here is this dance goes so very far to open that grace of faith making you whole to the conquered race. Not just a Pharisee this time, a Canaanite. Stretching the people's ability to accept that grace goes farther than their brains do. So I want to ask you, how does this story sit with you? How does it speak to you? Or how does the author of Romans, struggling between the new shiny covenant and not wanting anybody stuck back in the one he doesn't like anymore? This kind of struggle between our shoulds and our calls is so human. So I want you to tell stories and share with me what your thoughts are about how God crossed our should barriers to heal us.